Hello there. We've got some friends joining us. Hi, Julie. Hi, Gigi. You guys can unmute your microphones as you're coming in if you want. Is that Caroline? iPad 5, right?
Carolina.
Carolina. I'm going to put Carolina here so we know your name, that mysterious iPad 5.
Yes.
How you doing, Julie? How do you feel?
I'm going to keep mine muted unless I'm actually talking because I got a lot of noise and kids and stuff in the background.
Totally. Did you get into the headstand today?
I Frida did. No.
Yeah.
I held her up, but that's when I blocked my camera out because that's not something anyone wanted to see. I'm very not flexible, but I tried it and it was great. It was a lot of fun. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, she's a lot of fun.
So you enjoyed the class?
Yes, I did actually very much.
Awesome.
I even started to get like a little bit of a workout. I opened my window and everything.
See, you got warm.
Yay.
Let me tell you, you can actually break a sweat just from doing the proper breathing.
Yeah.
Really cool. If you're really breathing the way you can be breathing, you can be breaking a sweat.
Yeah, that was good.
So is Mac owner Jacqueline? She just left. Okay. I just want to get everyone's names on there properly too. So as we're all coming in, we can just kind of say hello and chit chat, and we'll get started a few minutes after.
I want to know if anyone made a Johnny cake.
I didn't. I was all about it, but you know what? I ate. Well, food was our lunch was ready, so of course we weren't going to wait for the Johnny cake. But and then after that, I got a total Bahamian. Well, what do we call it? A belly full, bottom drowsy. So I laid down, and the breeze is so sweet out here that I just dozed off, and then I got up and listened to the Prime Minister at 3 o'clock. So time didn't allow, but I am going to try it for sure.
So somebody sent me, I don't know if you could see this because it's on my phone, but somebody sent me this. It's not a Johnny cake, but it's a key lime pie Kira made after we got off. Nice. So I thought that was really cool that she was inspired to make something.
My favorite.
Erin, did you make anything?
I did not make anything. However, I did go outside to my tree and I picked some plums.
Oh, scarlet plums.
So, yeah,
nice.
These are scarlet plums and some mangoes. So, hold on. I got mangoes too. I got some mangoes, some fresh mangoes.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I did not make Johnny cake, but I helped we're making Sunday dinner, so I was frying out the pot for rice, and then we're trying a new recipe with fish. So something that we just came up with. So we're just trying that. So yeah, I will send a picture of how that looks.
And Jacqueline has her camera off, but she says she's in the middle of making gluten-free peach pie and some baked stuff. So I think you had an imprint on everyone, Chef.
You did.
Everyone's out here making pies.
Hi, Indy. How are you?
What? It's my birthday. Oh, you guys are making pies for me? Amazing.
Happy birthday.
I'll eat them. Virtually. Here, give me
your birthday?
Yeah, it's my birthday. Yeah.
Happy birthday!
Thank you, guys.
We're gonna have to sing to you when we get all that energy out. Bahamas style. Awesome. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Sweet.
Thank you.
Dawn, I turned my camera around and I look pretty shady. Should I?
You look good.
Yeah, you can see. Okay, it looks like a dark mess to me. Anyway, that's cool.
So
you look great, Bethany.
Thank you. It's good to see you finally, Winsome.
Good to see you too.
So this is what I just wanted to kind of give you a glimpse into what the afternoon will be like, so that you know the flow. We will start with Micah will actually just lead us through a short meditation, probably about 7 minutes or so, just to get us all connected together. And then we're going to dive into our panel discussion, and we have some really amazing people here with us. You met a few of them earlier, and we may have a couple others joining, I'm not sure. But I'll introduce everyone when we get into that. We'll share some things about some other islands in the Bahamas. I have a short, like 3-minute video to show you on that. So we'll see where the conversation goes, but I have a feeling it's going to get really, really pretty special. And then at the end, we'll close it out with a little slow movement, and that will probably only be maybe about 30 minutes, 25 to 30 minutes. So it'll be on the shorter side. So that's what we have in planned for you all for this evening.
Sounds
So,
great.
Anybody have any questions before we get started, or anything you want to share? No? Okay, cool. So do you all know how to mute your microphones and unmute your microphones? Do you guys all know kind of the basics of that?
I
Do
don't.
you have a question, or do you know?
I don't know how to mute it.
Okay.
With this headphone.
So you don't have to worry about the headphone. If you go to the participants on the right, or
yes.
no, go to your own box, the 3 little dots where it says mute,
yes.
or you can click on the 3 little dots. So you can, yes, mute and unmute right there.
Got it.
That.
Cool.
So you can control your own mute. We want you to be able to chime in and connect. So, but if there's noise going on, obviously in the background, be sure to mute yourself. Otherwise, I might jump in and mute you just so that we don't have interference.
Thank you.
In the background. So I will hand it over to Micah just to get us grounded. Unmute Micah. Hold on a moment. You're still muted. Let me unmuting you. Micah, can you unmute yourself? Because I'm having trouble unmuting you. Oh, there you go.
You are unmuted by the host.
Okay. Sometimes what happens is like we're both unmuting you, and it's just like this little war. So you have to kind of let go. All right.
All righty. So, how is everyone feeling? I am
feeling good.
I'm glad you guys got to feel the power of my practice this morning. I hope that it was a good class for you, helped you to open up your body and show you, what's possible and what you can work towards. So for these next couple of moments, we're just going to do a quick breathing and grounding. So just begin to find a position that feels comfortable, whether that be with your back up against the wall or in a cross-legged position, lotus position, whatever really feels comfortable for you. Take a deep bellyful inhale and exhale. And as we breathe in and out through the mouth and the nose, we want to make sure that we are breathing out as if we're fogging up a mirror. So that same Ujjayi breath from this morning, that's what we're going to work on. Deep bellyful inhale. Really begin to follow the sound of your breath. Bring awareness to places in your body that feel a little sore or
I think I still lost her audio. Okay. Micah?
Yes.
We lost your audio for a moment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I can hear you again, but you're a little
Okay.
You're a little sideways, but we can hear you. As long as we can hear you, we should have our eyes closed anyway.
All righty. I'll come a little bit closer as well.
Mm,
Is that better?
yeah. You can turn your
Alrighty.
camera
Sorry
off if
about
you
that,
want.
guys.
Yeah, you can turn your camera off if you want to, since it's sideways, and we might be able to have you hear you better that way.
Oh, here, wait.
Okay.
I'm not, sorry. I can still turn it off if
No,
that.
it's good. It's good.
Okay. All right. So sorry about that. Come back to your seated position, whatever feels comfortable. And return to that breath. Our breath is our life force. It is how we get oxygen and nutrients to our body. When you feel comfortable keeping that same constriction in your throat, seal the lips. And follow the ebb and flow of your breath. Begin to feel the sits bones, the tailbone rooting down towards the ground. And reach up towards the sky, reaching through the crown of the head. So we elongate the spine upward. And as you breathe here, envision yourself plugging into the ground like a charger port, absorbing the earth's energy through your root and releasing everything that you do not need through the crown. So as you inhale, take in what you need. Exhale, release. Think of your breath as the ebb and flow of the ocean. As the water washes up on the shore, it cleanses, it washes and purifies. As you exhale, it pulls away, carrying away anything that no longer serves, anything that is dead and heavy. Envision all of the negative energy seeping out from your root, being absorbed and transformed by the earth. On that next inhale, hold the breath for 4 counts. And exhale, tongue out of mouth, lion's breath. 2 more just like that. Tongue out. Last one. Return to your normal breath and gently open the eyes.
Beautiful. Thank you, Micah. Okay.
Thank you guys for bearing with my internet.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, so we're going to get started, and I wanted to talk first a little bit about lots of the different options and islands in the Bahamas. So we're, 2020 right now. We've just come to a complete travel stop. And the only place that I've had the opportunity to travel to this year was the Bahamas. Kind of cool. So I was in Nassau first in January for a conference, for Caribbean Hotel Association conference. And then I made it over to Eleuthera. Eleuthera and Harbor Island. I've been to lots of the smaller islands, but I had never been to Eleuthera and Harbor Island before. And it was really awesome, I think. And I'm going to show you this short video from my trip, which is just a few minutes long, from Eleuthera. But just the big takeaways, and I think it might be fun if you guys have all been into the Bahamas to share something as well. But my biggest takeaway from Eleuthera was that it was so natural. And when I say natural, I mean there's caves and water holes and just, I mean, so much beauty and land. Obviously the ocean and the water. So I'm going to give you this kind of little fun look into my solo trip into Eleuthera. So give me a moment so that I can share this with you. Right here. And, okay, so I'm on the mainland on Eleuthera now, and I have a car. I'm traveling by myself. I just made it over to the Sapphire Blue Hole, and then I'll go over to Preacher's Cave. It's so quiet here, and this is spectacular. Now, I'm not really insane. I'm not going to jump in this blue hole all by myself because, no, who knows, I might not come out, but I'm not going to go in by myself. If there was somebody else here with me, for sure, I would be the first to jump in there. But check this out. You have to actually climb back up a rope to get out. This is a really, really cool experience.
Awesome.
There's the rope. It's so quiet here. I'm going to sit for a few minutes. Okay, so I made it over to Preacher's Cave, and I hear that this is a real highlight in Eleuthera. So I'm going to check it out, and I'll bring you along to have a look. And it's really peaceful, super giant. I could see coming here and doing a class, a meditation class in here would be amazing. So, wow, I'm kind of going to step in now. Let's see. It's a big hole up on top here. Check this out. There's all of this space here. We have sunlight over here. This would be such a great place to come to and do a class for sure. Raise me overnight. Oh my God, I want to do that. So I made it to the glass bridge. Oh, it's just so amazing. So it's this little piece of concrete here that is a bridge. It's basically a rock and separates between the Caribbean, or what people call the Caribbean, and the Atlantic over here. Oh, that's pretty spectacular. All right. Oops. Let me turn that off. So, just a little fun look into Eleuthera. Dawn can't see you. Can you see me? Did you guys all see that video?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me see you.
But you saw the video I just played?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
That made me
Yeah, so it's gorgeous.
Was I the only one that saw that?
No.
All right, cool. So before we dive into all the different islands and some favorites, I mean, maybe all of you that are watching and kind of observing this too, have you been to the Bahamas? Do you want to raise your hand and tell us about maybe somewhere even outside of Nassau, maybe somewhere a little, yeah, Julie?
Sure. So I was in the Bahamas in December we did a little girls trip with my two daughters and then some other friends and their daughters, and we stayed at this new place called the Albany in Nassau.
Yeah. And
it was unbelievable. The beach was the waters were crystal clear. The beach and the sand was amazing, and we got to do such cool things that you don't really get to do even on other Caribbean islands. So we even had my 4-year-old horseback riding on the beach, and then the kids all they did offer kids yoga, and they had this whole big grass area in front of all of the villas, and they let you kind of do these meditations in the morning and yoga and everything for families. So a very special place, and it was kind of like the Atlantis is a lot of fun and Bahamas is a lot of fun, but it was almost like the anti, where it was about, yes, it was great for families, but it's the kids were doing golf, and then they have their own movie theater, and it was just so nice. Such a great extended weekend, and such a special place. So and I've been to the Bahamas a number of times, but that was one of those that really kind of stuck at me. I've also been to Copperfields Island out there, and as beautiful and pristine and special as it is, I actually I like the Albany. I think I like the Albany even better. But so many special islands out there, and each each have their own personality, and that's, I think, what makes it such a special destination.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. Thanks, Julie. So anyone else? I think Gigi has a pretty special Bahamas trip, right?
Well, my very first exposure to the Bahamas was in 1965.
Oh, wow.
And that was a whole different. Nassau was obviously the first stop, because I was in Miami, and we decided to take a little jump flight, one of those little planes, over to Nassau, which I fell in love with. But boy, Nassau then was so much more pristine. Now it's more touristy, and it was before Atlantis and all those things that were built. And of course, I've been back since then, and it's still beautiful, still lovely. But boy, back in the 1960s, it was so pristine and so beautiful and so lovely. And it made me want to come back to the Bahamas forever. And we've made some sailing trips down there, and cruise trips. We've been to Freeport and spent 5 days there in a special home on the ocean. So I have a lot of good experience with Bahamas, and I feel very sad that they're going through all these terrible times, but I know they'll be back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and many of them have been back for sure since. I think we'll dive into that then too. And you can still get so much of that pristine, I think, from especially the outer islands. Even now, maybe what it was like in the 60s, but the outer islands, I think, can probably still hold on to that. Anybody else have a Bahamas experience? Carolina, hold on. Can you unmute? Okay.
Yep, I got it. You can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so besides going into Nassau, which I missed at the conch salads right off the bridge, which was beautiful. I went to Green Turtle Key out in the Abacus, and I haven't been there in a long time, but I do remember how beautiful and how quiet, and it was adult islands. There was nothing really going on except snorkeling and having the opportunity to snorkel with even nurse sharks and stuff. And it was really, really just pleasant. And the people were just so very nice. And nothing gets started until after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So you kind of really lay back and relax and enjoy the environment and the scenes and the island and the people. It wasn't a big island, but so you could definitely walk around and enjoy it. So that was my take on of the Bahamas.
Thank you, Carolina.
Thank you.
Anyone else that's watching want to share a Bahamas experience? Okay, cool. So we are going to get into our conversation with some of our Bahamian friends here. So I'll introduce a few that we have that we'll get into our panel discussion. So here we have Winsome, who is with the Bahamas Ministry of Tourism, and she is the manager overseeing the island of Abaco. And then, of course, you met Chef Simeon Hall this morning, and he's changed his shirt. And you're originally from Nassau, correct?
Yes.
And he's worked at some of the different islands before.
Yeah.
And then we have Daphne, who we saw this morning. And let's see, and we've got Micah, and we might have a few other people from the Ministry of Tourism joining us too. So I would love to start by talking about some of your favorite islands and maybe some things that we don't know about. If you'd like to share something somebody might not know about one of the other islands, the outer islands, that you can share. Chef?
Oh, okay, I'll go first. One of my favorite islands, even though it's kind of not on the map right now, is actually Grand Bahama, Freeport. And the reason behind that is Grand Bahama was the first place that my father took me on a vacation. It was a working vacation. My dad's originally, his family is from 8 Mile Rock in Grand Bahama. And there used to be a place called the Princess Hotel there. The Princess Hotel had a place called the Rib Room. And the Rib Room was a steakhouse. And that was the first time I had a premium steak ever in my life, prepared by somebody professional. And although I already knew that I wanted to follow a dream in cooking, that was the first time I had that experience. Also, to me, when Freeport is Freeport, it's a nice middle ground in the Bahamas. It's not as busy as Nassau, and it's not as, kind of too vacation-y as the outer islands. It's right there in the middle. Some of the amenities that you would want, and then also too, there's a nice mix of culture and laid-backness still in Freeport. So that's why I like Freeport, for the memory of my first steak and the fact that it's a chill spot. So I really hope that Freeport gets back to where it was during those times of the Princess Resort.
I love that, that it was your first steak and they're so memorable. That's fun. Yeah. Micah?
Yes, so it's very difficult for me to say because like Julie said earlier, each island has such
You just muted yourself.
such a unique flavor that it's really difficult to say. I guess in recent times, I recently started dating someone who has a lineage from Long Island. So I made my first trip down to Long Island this past summer, and it was literally the greatest experience because I grew up a lot. My sister, she was a teacher in Harbor Island, and she has lived on mainland Eleuthera, and she now lives in Spanish Wells. So I spent a lot of time like in Eleuthera in the summers and Easter, and then my family's from Cat Island, and I've made trips to other islands and they've all been great, but nothing has taken me by surprise like Long Island. It's just so many hidden treasures that I didn't like expect. Like I knew Long Island was famous for the sheep running, and everybody, had farms or either raised some kind of like goat or sheep or something like that. But I mean, we went to places like
we're losing you a little, Micah. You're kind of breaking in and out.
Micah's mic isn't working.
Yeah, Micah's mic. But we hear you about Long Island, and not the Long Island where I'm from.
Yeah, so they had like a shrimp bowl there inland, and just all kinds of things that took me by so much surprise. And we stayed with some of his relatives, and they took us to all these like cool spots, these secret spots, secret beaches, random places, and it just gave me such a wonderful feeling inside to know that I am from a place that literally has so many undiscovered treasures. And when I say undiscovered, I don't mean like nobody knows about them. I mean, like there are a lot of Bahamians who probably don't. Like you have a lot of Bahamians that have not really explored the outer islands, and it's just what we have here is a treasure. So much biodiversity, so much beauty in each island. You go to one island for one thing that you can't find in another island. And it's just, I don't know, it's like magical being from here, honestly, because I've never been to an island and my breath is not taken away by the beauty of what I was seeing or what I was experiencing. Like I said, I've been to like Exuma, Eleuthera, Inagua, Andros. I've been a lot of places, but in recent times, Long Island has really just like knocked me off my feet.
Yeah.
You think love had anything to do with that, Micah?
Yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
I was waiting for some. Daphne,
The
thank you
Bahamian
so much. I
shade.
was waiting for somebody to say it. I wasn't to say it because then I was
Maybe,
going to get in trouble. But I
I'm
was
seeing
waiting for somebody to
everything
say
through
that.
rose-colored glasses.
Yeah.
But I mean, like I said, I'm not saying that Long Island is my favorite island. I'm just saying in recent times,
Yeah.
it's been like
It's
remarkable
okay. It's
to
okay.
discover that. But
Okay.
I love all
Okay,
the
date
islands.
night.
Like I said, I can't even say, I can't say like Long Island. That's like that hard around my mom, those, because they are Cat Island people. And I love Cat Island. But like, every island has its own beauty. So it's really hard to say. But yeah. When it comes to food, though, one thing I would tell everybody: Spanish Wells is not the place to go for food. That's all. That's all I have to say. Okay.
So I have somebody joining us that it's a very strange name on it, so I'm not really sure what is happening with that. But let's see what it's just a bunch of different numbers and letters. So we'll see if they come in. I kind of accidentally clicked yes, but anyway, so we'll hope that's okay. So, because I hear about sometimes people hacking in on like meetings and stuff. So it's all of a sudden like, how did I just click that? In any case, I think we're going to get into Abaco a little, but are there any other islands that you all would like to share?
I would just like to say that the best family vacation that I've ever been on in the Bahamas was on Cat Island. It is the most amazing, mystical island. We went to the Hermitage, the beaches, the people, the food, everything about it was just magical. And the other island that blew me away was Exuma. As a Bahamian, born and raised and grew up in West End and Grand Bahama and Nassau, you don't think about being blown away by your own natural, beauty. But flying into Exuma, I thought, my God, this is what they call God's land, because it's so shallow. The sandbanks, the color is amazing. And there's a hill up in Exuma somewhere, I don't know, that's like Bahamian, by the hill, that all I could see was a whole sandbank, and there was a beautiful ballet of stingrays because they move in schools, and I was able to see them from the hilltop. It totally blew me away. Incredible waters and colors and just amazing. And then of course living on Abaco, there's such diversity here that that's the beauty, to me, the beauty of the Abacos is that it's so diverse. You've got land, sea, every key is different, and it's just a 15, 20 minute, 30-minute boat ride away. So it's special.
So 3 years ago, I took a trip to Abaco for the first time with my son, who at the time was maybe about 20 months old. He was just under 2.
Wow.
I remember, I didn't have to have a seat for him in the little plane, so he was on my lap. But we had the most amazing time. We were at the Abaco Club, and it was like, I felt like it was like our little like romantic getaway. My son and I, we were like, we had dinner together at the club there. The two of us, we played on the beach. We just had like two nights or something. It was just so special. And I just remember it so much because that time he and I shared there together. But in jumping into and diving into Abaco a little, we have Winsome, who is the manager for Abaco, and Abaco you called home up until this past September.
Yes, that's correct.
Would you like to share with us a little bit about your experience going through this massive hurricane and how it has now shifted your life?
Yes, Hurricane Dorian definitely changed my life. Never anticipated that I would have to relocate to New Providence and start a new life here for the time being. With Hurricane Dorian, I'm sitting here now and just thinking back on that day when the storm came upon us. And I mean, the winds were just howling. Debris was flying from every direction. Windows were broken, my roof was compromised. Water started to come in from every angle. I had my sister and my niece and nephew with me at my house, and we were trying to, every time we tried to cure a leak or put something there to catch the water, another part of the house. And then there was this big sound, and when we looked, a piece of wood from flying debris came through the wall of my guest bedroom, and water just came gushing down, and flying debris was coming from everywhere. It was like, it felt like it just was not going to stop. It went on for hours, it seems, and it was frightening. It was really frightening because you just didn't know what to do, but I tried to keep my calm and I prayed silently. And as we were trying to shift things around in the house, move things from one location to the next, water just came gushing down, just keep gushing down. And I went into my bedroom, and in my bedroom, the roof, the ceiling, it was lifting like a piece of paper flying up and down, and like the roof wanted to come off. And so I said to, and this went on for a while, and I said to my sister and those, I said, you know what? Once the eye passes, we're gonna just leave. And so during the eye of the storm, we had to get in a vehicle and try to make our way to safety, which we went to my office at the government complex. And as we were going there, I mean, people were just running for their lives because one of the shelters was compromised. And so you had people just running from one direction to the next. And so we finally got to the government complex, and as we got there and getting out of the car, the winds had picked back up. I mean, it was like pulling you, and so we were like fighting to get to this building. And the winds were pulling, but luckily, with God's help, we were able to get in. And my office became my home for 3 days. And it was safe, thank God. But as you look out the windows, you could see people running for their lives. So a lot of people came to the government complex, which was one of the buildings that we had to open up all of the offices to accommodate all those persons whose homes were just basically flattened or roofs just came off. And as I laid it one night, I said to my sister, I said, boy, what a difference a day make. As we, because we were sleeping on the floor, we had nothing, just the floor. It was luckily it was carpeted. However, nothing else. Luckily I had my laptop bag, and that became my pillow. And we just had to tug it out there until the storm had passed. And then what was so hard for me, we lost all communications. And not being able to reach the rest of my family, my staff, my church family, that was nerve-wracking. That's something you would never want to experience, not knowing what was happening. I recall the last telephone call I had was from my niece, Kristen, who attends the University of Bahamas here in Nassau. And she called me, you know, she was crying. She was like, Annie Winsome, mommy, her mother had just lost her house. And she wasn't sure what their situation was because she had lost contact with them. So having all of this to deal with, not knowing, it was really, really hard. But what I can say, and then having to move to Nassau, someplace I never desired to live because I'm an island girl. I could get to work in 5 minutes. And here in Nassau with the traffic, it takes you an hour to get to work. Never drove in Nassau in my life, but Dorian changed all of that. I had to just build up the nerves, and I guess God, he gives you the strength to do these things. And I'm driving in Nassau. I went from living alone to living with people. I had to take in some of my family members because, you know, everybody just had to kind of to all bond together as best as possible. And, you know, I know for me, I had to leave Abaco with nothing, just the clothes on my back. And when you look back and you reflect, you know, because sometimes material things, you know, you worship them. I know I'm a shoe freak. I had like 200 pairs plus shoes, and I had to leave all of them. And you know, you build up, you gather things that you treasure, and then it's nothing. You know, in the blink of an eye, it was all gone. And so I know for me, it's been a humbling experience for me, and I had to practice patience, you know, because things wasn't happening like you wanted it to happen. And just being in Nassau and driving in the traffic, you have to practice patience. So it's been a life-changing experience for me after Hurricane Dorian.
Wow, that is really, really very powerful, Winsome. Thank you for sharing that. How do you think, you know, we're all going through this pandemic now? You know, we're all going through this other kind of different kind of storm, right? Completely different kind of storm, but these unprecedented times and just a moment of potential crisis. How do you think some of the lessons that you may have learned over the last 6 months, do you have anything that you can share with some people who might be, you know, just worried for the next part of their lives now too?
I know for me, I learned I appreciate life, just the gift of life. And my family, you know, it drew us closer together because sometimes we take these things for granted. You know, we're living our hunky-dory life, enjoying the finer things in life, and then all of a sudden it's gone. And so you have to learn to adapt and be able to appreciate the smaller things more so than the bigger things. And I know that's for me. This has been a humbling experience for me. Words cannot express. It's having gone through Dorian and being a survivor, and then now it's COVID-19. And what COVID-19 did for me, Dorian prepared me for COVID-19 because I'm better able to deal with the situation. Because, you know, I had to relocate and come to a new place to live, and COVID-19 with the lockdown, it really doesn't matter to me. I make the most of it. So I say to people, you just have to treasure your life and do things that you want to do. Don't put it off. If you want to do something, do it today, because tomorrow is not promised. Because, you know, in Dorian, we lost over 60 people in Abaco. I mean, that died, and then there's still hundreds that are unaccounted for. And so I have the gift of life, and so I'm just going to enjoy life and do the things that I want to do. Just take advantage of the opportunity, spend time with family, and make memories, because in a blinking of an eye, it can be taken from you.
Wow. And it's so powerful. It really is. Winsome, thank you. you know, the people in the Bahamas, I feel like, especially going through this massive hurricane, they have so much resilience. You know, you just see being able, and certainly, you know, you've all been through hurricanes, but then this was nothing like the other hurricanes you've been through, right? So this was something entirely different in itself. But it just really points out to the resilience. And how do you think Abaco is going to, like, as it moves forward into the future, you know, the future of Abaco, what do you see as you rebuild?
Abaconians are very resilient people. We went through Hurricane Floyd. That was the first major storm that I experienced. And we thought then it was the end of the world, because there was some major damage, nothing like Dorian. And we came back as a big and better Abaco. And I can assure you that Abaco will be rebuilt bigger and better. It's going to be, I'm visualizing, you know, because things are going to change. So there have to be some changes, because our whole town center was basically destroyed, and we're picking up the pieces bit by bit. Small businesses are opening back up. Our whole tourist strip, I mean the entertainment of Marsh Harbor, that whole strip where you could walk from one restaurant or bar to the next, all of that is gone. And so I'm looking forward to see how that is going to come back. I'm sure they would, I'm sure the owners of those properties would they would build, I guess, even better. And the building should be really, really solid and nice. And I'm looking forward to seeing that strip come back up and running.
Thank you. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions for Winsome before we kind of move along? No, it's really powerful. Thank you, Winsome. You know, it's as you go through anything like that, everything changes, right? So it's like just daily living, what you have, products that you have not, I mean, anything, sharing space with people. Did you find, as you were then relocating into Nassau, some maybe any kind of traditional healing methods that you might have remembered from your mother and your grandmother? And did you realize, did any of this kind of settle in where, you know, you had to kind of come right back down to the basics, that you didn't have any of those luxuries? Were there any kind of traditional healing methods or natural products that you were using at that time?
No, there was no products that I was using at that time, but I would say that we need to go back to basics and be able to appreciate the natural environment and things of nature, and be able to go outside and pick a mango or a tomato. We need to get back to that, because even with COVID-19, and we don't know how long this is going to go on for, food shortage could become a problem in the Bahamas. And so I know our parents always had a garden, and something that I didn't follow in terms of, you know, going out there and planting tomatoes or cucumbers or whatever it is. And now I feel compelled that I need to do it. So that is one thing that my parents would have, you know, I grew up seeing, that I feel now that I need to be doing.
Yeah.
Can I just add something to that? Winsome, I think in the Bahamas, we all grew up with backyard gardens, and there wasn't ever a time that I can remember that we didn't have something growing in our yards that we could eat, fruit, vegetables, etc. And you're absolutely right, that food security is a serious threat to us for the future, which is why our government is calling on everyone to, you know, plant edible landscaping. It's nice to look at flowers and, you know, beautiful trees, but we need to plant things that we can sustain ourselves with. And I'm just gonna, I hope you don't mind, Winsome, but I'm gonna say that it wasn't that long before Hurricane Dorian that you had health challenges. And I just want to give a congratulations to you, because having come through those health challenges and being as strong as you were, obviously, to cope with Dorian, and now being in Nassau, we miss you here on Abaco.
I saw him come back.
we know that you are going to do your best to push for us. I am not as optimistic as you that our front street is all going to be rebuilt. That's going to be, we're going to have a new face there of our city. But certainly whatever is built will be built with different standards. And I think you're going to find that our city is going to shift a little bit. But the one thing that I would add to what you've already said about the whole experience, it's basically leveled the playing field for us all. And I would say that's universal. Doesn't matter how wealthy you are or how much you have, we're all, this invisible storm that we're having, this COVID virus, nobody gets a pass.
No.
You know, nobody's getting a pass or a free ticket. So I think each and every one of us, if I could put a message out there, and I hope that Abaco leads the way in this, that we all individually do everything that we can to support our communities and each other, and think more consciously about tomorrow, not just this minute. We got spoiled with instant gratification. That's why we stopped planting our own tomatoes. We just could go to the food store and get it. Well, now you got to line up for hours to get into the food store, and you got to hope that they have it when you get there. So every backyard and every community needs to grow food, and we need to bind ourselves together in love, not within the church walls, but outside, where it helps, where it really counts.
Yes, Daphne, I agree. We need to support each other more so than ever before.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Daphne. It makes me think, actually earlier, Chef Simeon had brought up this morning about some of the wisdom from his elders, from his grandmothers, I think. But are there, and maybe this is a question for Simeon, but really a question for all of you, are there things from your elders that you can remember, some wisdom, some teachings that you can kind of think back to now that might help guide you in this time with COVID-19?
I know for me, my parents always taught me or instilled in me that you have to prepare for a rainy day, you know, because sometimes we lose sight, we think things would be normal forever. And Dorian taught me that, you know, being able to save for a rainy day, because, you know, in Abaco right now, like 80% of the people did not have like house insurance. And so even some of the businesses didn't have insurance. And so they weren't prepared. They're not in a position to rebuild, you know, so they're looking for, you know, everybody is looking for the government to assist them, but the government can only do so much. And so thanks to a lot of the NGOs who came in and lend assistance to the island of Abaco. But I think, you know, you need to really prepare for rainy days, you know, because you just, and I know for many people now, they would look at things differently, even if you cannot pay. I know insurance is very expensive, but even if it's only 50% insured, it's something better than nothing.
Yeah, for sure. Prepare for the rainy day. That's where we all are now, right? Hoping that we were properly prepared. Any other wisdoms?
From a holistic standpoint and from a medicinal standpoint, I mean, growing up, you know, we always, if you had a head cold, you go to the sea, stick your head in the sea, inhale the salt water, cleanse, you know, gargle with the salt water. That was an automatic. You have a cold, go to the sea. If you were having a chest congestion or anything, it was Saracea, the most bitter vine that grows all over the trees, wild. You would have Saracea or bay geranium, which grows on the shoreline. Those were all traditional herbs that were used, and you know, cooking with herbs, fresh herbs, thyme, and you know, turmeric. Well, turmeric is not really Bahamian, but turmeric is very powerful, and it's becoming more popular. So all of the ginger, fresh ginger, make a ginger poultice, or you know, put half an onion in a sock and put it on your chest for chest congestion. All these old things. Simeon, hopefully maybe in your 700 book, you might have little sections on those old wise herbal remedies somewhere. Just a thought.
You never know.
I'd be happy to help.
You never know. I would agree with that. I would also venture in to say that one of the things that I think my grandparents and my mother taught us was some level of being comfortable with social distancing. Mm-hmm. Not to have to rely on, as they would call it, company to survive. So that was always something that you were taught to be able to kind of disconnect from the world and go into studies, go into family fellowship, go into cooking with one another, that sort of stuff, so that it wasn't such a foreign situation for a lot of people in the islands. There are people literally that cannot function in solitude. They cannot. And that is also one of the things that we need to be able to understand, is how to depend on yourself. And a lot of people can't do that. Some people are literally lost in a time like this, whether they can cook, they can clean, they can provide just an environment that it's okay for themselves and their families. And that was definitely something that my grandparents and parents taught us, even though obviously they would never use the word social distancing, but it was, you know, this sort of underlying understanding of you will be okay if you have to do for yourself, be by yourself, kind of operate in your own space and be okay with that. And I think that's probably why you would have most of the island people being able to say, I'm okay. I'm okay during this time. I can cook. I definitely can provide for myself, etc. And so those are some of the things that obviously nobody would have, in those times, they wouldn't know the word corona, but there's a wisdom behind some of these generations that goes beyond our comprehension, and it prepares us for things like this. And so I definitely appreciate, not because I'm a chef, but it's, you know, it's the ability to survive when you need to. And that's something that we all should walk away from this time of. And the last thing I'd say is, even as a chef and somebody who promotes restaurants and eating out and dining out and socializing, I also equally promote cooking at home, cooking with your family, cooking with your kids, teaching everybody how to cook, male and female kids, not just having it as some sort of, oh, this one does this and this one does that, but to actually have everybody involved. When you cook with your family, it could be some of the most amazing fellowship time. And that is something that they almost demanded back in the day. You know, you weren't coming to the dinner table with phones and iPads and all these other stuff. And now we can integrate it, but it's taken over us. And so, you know, families live together, but they don't really live together anymore. But
Everybody's
Grammy
in their
made
own
sure-
room.
Yeah, Grammy made sure that we were all at the dinner table. We were all there for breakfast. We were all there at certain times. Family devotion and all these things that are so important now. So that it isn't a foreign, you know, literally you have strangers living in your house.
Yeah.
Very good point.
It's interesting that what you say, Simeon, because it makes me think about the culture within the Bahamas and within the the Bahamian people. There's so much. I mean, when you think about carnival and costumes and music and food and I mean, there is a lot of gathering together. But I think that there's a lot of culture. How do you think that? How are you really preserving the culture of the Bahamian people as we are shifting in this global world and in this world of connectivity? Do you find that it's a lot harder with the next generation?
Well, let me just say something quickly before I'm sure Winsome will chime in. One of the most difficult things that you're ever going to see is to not have Bahamians have Junkanoo. That's going to be impossible. That will never happen. I don't know how, if we could ever, we got to make sure that we absolutely 100% over social distancing in the next couple weeks, because we got to get in the shack. We got to start preparing. December is coming and we going to Junkanoo.
We going on bait.
I know what Junkanoo is, but tell them, Simeon, what Junkanoo is, because I'm not sure.
Junkanoo is an old festival or fellowship that started years ago, that was a celebration of the slaves and this and that. But basically what Junkanoo is now is a celebration twice a year for Bahamians on Boxing Day and New Year's. And it is a celebration of rhythm with drums and horns and artistry with design of Bahamian costumes. Junkanoo is the only manual festival that still does not use electronic music as its base within our region. Junkanoo is the only one where people are still playing drums and beating horns, and it is woven into the DNA of every single Bahamian. I think Bahamians start to tap their feet to Junkanoo from day 6.
From day one. And I think even before they're born, they were Junkanoo in the belly.
If their parents go out to Junkanoo and they're with child, they're dancing in the womb. So Junkanoo is to the Bahamas more than the festival in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
So we definitely, we can be back by December. I can tell you that much for sure, 100%.
If you're dating someone and their Junkanoo team is not the same Junkanoo team as yours, there's a grave problem. Like, it's a serious problem.
We can't make it. We ain't gonna make it.
Yeah, we ain't gonna make it, for real.
It's like supporting 2 different football teams. It doesn't work.
Exactly. Well, there's a lot of aggression at game time.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. So do any of you perform in the festivals? Oh, sorry, Gigi, were you saying something?
No, I was just, the Junkanoo you're speaking of, it's not a religious thing like Mardi Gras is to celebrate the beginning of Lent.
No, so this is
it's just about life or nature and music. It's not based on a religious thing, obviously.
No,
it's more it's rooted in African history, based through freedoms and very cultural. In fact, it's religious to Bahamians, not in terms of an affiliation with a spiritual religion, but religious in terms of it can happen. It has to happen. It is. It is as natural as breathing, 100%. And it is also the proclamation of the Bahamas. Anytime the Bahamas does an event anytime the Bahamas goes on a global stage, we use Junkanoo to prefix and to close out all of our events because it is a true testament of what the Bahamian person is. And you either love Junkanoo or you're okay with Junkanoo. But there's nobody that hates Junkanoo in the Bahamas. Nobody. They may try to pretend that they do, or they may not go to the festival, but they get up at 1 o'clock in the morning and watch it on TV and they dancing in their room.
Of course.
Everybody's involved in Junkanoo, literally. And then it goes beyond religion.
Even our prime minister rushes.
The pastors, the prime minister, political and religious leaders, they're all involved in it. Die hard. I talk about die hard.
It's the biggest street party going.
And then
Yes,
you get
100%.
just as excited.
Yeah, I mean, right now I can go play Junkanoo as soon as I hang up from here.
You might have
some Saxon tape.
for a Junkanoo. You know, we were looking for a short tidbit to show everyone, so you might have to play it for us.
Yeah, so, and then there's several groups, and, you know, it's very fast, the competition, but in the end of it, it is the common denominator is it's totally Bahamian. Because once we're not competing, we're all enjoying Junkanoo. Because there are some festivals that just have Junkanoo. There's not a particular group, but the actual experience is going on. And you could be a Bahamian that was born 10 times over somewhere else. The minute you hear Junkanoo, you was Bahamian again.
Yeah, it's amazing. It sounds like it's something that really unites you, regardless of, you know, maybe what political place you stand in, or what food you eat, or which church you go to, or whatever it is. Whatever place you play.
It's a common denominator. There's no economic division. There's you might support a group. You either Saxon or you Roots or whatever. One family, but you're all on the same level. Like she said, the prime minister, he's drop everything and he's on the street just like everybody else, and he's rushing and sweating and jumping and carrying on. You know, he's Bahamian. Yeah,
and it's one of those festivals that people actually design their visits to the Bahamas around. There are people that have been coming to Junkanoo for years and years and years that are not Bahamian, but they will not miss a Junkanoo on Bay Street, 100%. And I guarantee you, this coming year, it's either going to be impacted or it's probably going to be the biggest Junkanoo celebration that we've ever had, because people won't want to miss it, because you don't know what tomorrow holds. You're not going to miss this Junkanoo, I guarantee you. There's going to be people flying in from all over. Bahamians that live all over the world are going to come back home for Junkanoo this year, guaranteed.
It's going to be so much more important, that unifying and uniting. And one thing you said, there's no mechanical music, but also there's no machinery used, like our floats and all the decorations. Everything is manually operated. That's very important too. Everything has to be carried manually.
And it's all made by hand.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah.
The costumes are so beautiful. So Simeon, since you are not, you're come back and forth into the Bahamas, but maybe you spend, I don't know how much time you spend away from the Bahamas. Do you always have to come back for Junkanoo, or how do you, somebody who's not there all the time, how do you?
As much as I can, I definitely try to be around for at least one of the parades. If not, there's now, we've expanded Junkanoo throughout the summer as well. It's not the same event, but it's more geared to make sure that everybody's covered. So we have summer Junkanoos, we have Junkanoo practice that becomes an occasion for the unions as well. So it takes, most of the groups would start around this time actually, getting into understanding and knowing what they're going to do for Christmas. Because like we're saying, it's a manual art. So they definitely need several months to prepare. So you would actually have those practices, those smaller events. There's Junkanoo rush outs at parties, the whole 9 yards. So if you was a Bahamian, you can get your Junkanoo fix. So we all get our Junkanoo fix.
Cool. Well, it's like everything can be online now today anyway, since this.
You gotta be there though. It's nothing like feeling the bass in your soul. You gotta feel it.
Yeah, well, I've gotten the experience in the different. I've come to the large conferences in the Bahamas, and they'll always put together some sort of junkanoo, and they all come out in their costumes and dance. And actually, even I've landed in Nassau where you're greeted with the music and the dance and the costume, and it's so cool. You're like getting off the plane. You're like, yes, I am in the Bahamas. This is great.
Yeah, 100%.
I really like that. So it sounds like that Junkanoo, at least, isn't going to be all that hard to maintain with the younger generation. It seems like you've made it so, fun and so lively and something that's just instilled in part of them. So that doesn't seem to be a problem. That's awesome.
No.
Does anybody have any questions?
Well, I just kind of wanted to, I guess, as someone being from that generation, kind of speak to the preservation of culture. I think that a lot of kids my age, especially those who go off to the States to school, really struggle with the idea of coming back home. Because in the United States, there are more corporations, more companies, more people looking for you to do whatever it is that you're doing, especially if it's a niche thing. So I feel like that's the first struggle that people my age have when it comes to the culture thing, because it's hard for a country to preserve its culture when all of its young people are leaving. So that's a significant problem that the whole Caribbean faces, brain drain, because you have our most intelligent, well, I should rephrase that, those who go off to acquire specialized skill, nurses, a lot of doctors, people in economics, banking, that kind of thing, accounting, they keep their education and they stay in the States. So these are skilled workers that are not returning home. So that's a significant problem, I think, in preserving culture and, I guess, the intellectual integrity of not only the Bahamas, but the Caribbean as a whole. And then aside from that, I think that a lot of people my age were annoyed by their grandparents telling them, oh, you need to do this and you need to take this and you need to do these things. But I have seen from the time I was about 16, 17 to now, there has been a big resurgence among young people, especially looking for holistic and traditional medicines and ways of healing ourselves, as well as just looking at how can we move our culture forward in modern times. So you have a lot of artists, a lot of Bahamian artists and a lot of young Bahamians who own companies. They are actually working together and creating all of these different social media platforms where you can share. So you have some pages like For the Culture, where he makes Bahamian clothes with Bahamian slogans. And I think it's just the idea of how can we take our culture and make it modern and make it swaggy and make it fresh so that the next generation wants to take it on. So you have, a lot of young people there making Bahamian sayings into clothing items. And that's a way for us to put our culture on display.
Yeah.
You have a lot of, artists holding important conversations using the social distancing time and the platform to really discuss, like, how can we as young people help to move our culture forward. You have some pages that kind of, there's a page called The Last Island Gal, and they just post different different kinds of bush, what they look like, what they're good for, in cool little graphics. So I think that when we talk about preservation of culture, especially among people our age, it's very important to remember that we're digital, we're global, and we are always looking to be a part of a trend. So yes, older persons may not like to hear it, but we need to find a way to make the culture and the most important facets of the culture things that young people want to engage in, because other than that, it's just going to be the older ones, a few people from that age group who are interested, and everybody else turning towards the Americanized culture. So I think it's super important that everyone, whether young or old, really think critically, how can I digitize what it is, this information, this ancestral knowledge that I have, and how can I get it out on social media platforms so people know that there's this information out there and they'll be intrigued to pursue more for themselves.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
really.
Can I just say something, Micah? I'm so happy you brought that up because, you know, as probably the oldest person on this platform, I think, at least in my 60s, this has been a real challenge for my husband and I, and we are, you know, right now basically 80% of our business is gone. We're one of the fortunate ones that we actually still have 20% of our business. We still have products that we can sell and we can do online business, but the social media aspect of it, always being there, being able to, you know, they're like, okay, you got to do 5 minutes on this and Facebook and Instagram and get your website. And it's like, hello, hang on. I remember when the first computers came out, okay? I thought it was space age, you know, learning how to type manually, not electric, on a manual typewriter. We learned how to type in a science lab, okay, at St. Augustine's in Nassau. It was the science lab, and it was all about typing. So I'm really putting myself out there. But one thing I would hope, and as farmers, you know, people always look down at farmers. They go, oh, yeah, hi, and Daphne, I want you to meet these people. Oh, they're farmers. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay. It's immediately you're sort of downgraded from doctor or lawyer or whatever.
Right.
But, you know, right now through this time that everybody's been confined, all of a sudden our nieces and nephews, they're all calling now. Hey, I planted my first vegetable bed, and what kind of soil do I need? And how do I plant the seeds? And we've got all these kids calling us. Oh, I got this bug. What do I do? They're freaking out because they've just started planting a garden for the first time. They're actually engaging with the food that they've been putting in their mouth without even thinking. Now they're engaging in life, they have choices. But our professional, we need you young people to go away and get education and training, but we need you to also remember that we need you. So with all this electronic world that we live in, if you're like Simeon right now, he's in Hawaii, hello, and he's engaged. He's engaged as much as you and I are right here in the Bahamas. So no matter where you are in the world, if you just make it an important part of your future, because trust me, you're gonna want to come home, honey. And you want to come home to a home that you're going to be able to appreciate. But we cannot, we can't do it without you. So no matter where you are, you need to harness these different avenues to make sure that this dialogue goes forward. Our Ministry of Tourism, Winsome, I'm sure you would agree, how we market ourselves, how we engage with the world. Today, the millennials don't want to come to just look at something. They want to experience. Now we're building on the experience. They want to be able to taste Simeon's food and go pick that bush out of the field. They want to be engaged in what Bahamian is. So we need you as much as you need us. And that's, I think, the best lesson that can come out of this COVID is how important we all are to each other, how much we need to depend on each other, and be open to criticism. Constructive criticism is the best teacher. Like if you look at my business and you see that hey, I'm missing the boat, instead of just dissing me and saying, man, she missing the boat. No, you need to say, hey, I got a tip for you. You know, if we give, education is only as valuable as it is shared. We all need to grow together. We all need to develop together. I don't want to shine over you. That the day of wanting to be better than your neighbor. No. The whole neighborhood. If Winsome didn't have somewhere to go and her house blew down, her neighbor needs to help her. Or And that's what happens. We need to build each other up instead of trying to be bigger than the other one. Really. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
Sorry, I just went off on a tangent there.
No, and I, as you were talking, one thing that came to mind is like the older people, the elders in our society, they're the keepers of the wisdom. And we are the young people, we're the ones who are going to carry it on and preserve it.
As long as you grasp.
You're right. Right. So it's like, we can't learn unless we sit at your feet and try to understand. So even like when I came home, I made it my mission because I had just had weird experiences with the healthcare system while I was living in Tennessee, and just a lot of medication that I was prescribed either didn't work or was unnecessary or had horrible side effects. So when I came home, I literally made it a point twice a week, every week, I went to my grandmother's house and I just sat down with her and I listened to her describe plants or different things. And then after that, I would go out with her and she would drive me around and show me all the different plants. And no one else, she has 13 grandchildren and she has 7 or 8 kids, and I'm the only one who's ever expressed the most remote kind of interest in just wanting to see. But because I expressed that interest, now all of my other cousins, they would ask me, or they would be like, okay, now I'm gonna call Grammy and ask her. Or like when I say, yeah, I just used some gale of wind out of my yard and I got over a cold in 24 hours, they all want me to make them some of that because it's like, okay, this is better than going to the store. So I think that in small pockets, if we really just work together, and like, I think this pandemic is amazing because it's forcing a lot of people to, like Winsome said, get back to basics and return to growing your own food and looking to your ancestors and your elders for guidance. And I think all of that is so important because that's the only way we can move forward as a people.
Yeah, we got to get back to our roots. If you don't know where you come from, hey, Bob Marley said, you don't know where you're going.
No idea.
Micah, it's Gail here. I have a recommendation for you. We did not do it with the grandmother that lived to be 101. And we sit back and say, why didn't we do it? You should always carry a little recording. And when you sit down with her, ask her questions about when she was young and what did her mother tell her to do and what did her grandmother give her. And then you can use your experiences with her and pass that on to those cousins that don't take the time to sit down with grandma. And
yeah, that's an awesome idea.
I really think a recorded just history of her life and how was it when she grew up and how did she learn about this particular herb or this particular tree. And I think you can just even sit down and write a little journal about your life with grandma and pass that on to your children when you have them. So I think that advice would help your younger generation because someday they'll sit down and they'll say, I don't remember when my grandmother was born or where she was born. I mean, there's a commercial on television now that drives me crazy about this, where you can go get your DNA tested and that, and there's this woman that says, I didn't know I didn't know my grandfather was a judge and I'm like, how did that not get told to her? That her grandfather was a major judge. It's like saying that, our vice president, oh, by the way, your grandfather was a vice president. Like, how does that not get passed down?
Right. I mean, that's how you know she lied.
All these DNA tests, but why? They want to know about what they weren't told.
Right.
So I think it's your generation's job to carry on that wisdom.
To be the story keepers.
The storytellers, yes, absolutely. Well, your grandmother would be the storyteller, but you pass it down to
the recorder.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been thinking a lot about that as well. And Gail over there is the grandmother of my son, Gigi. And I've just been thinking about that a lot because I can remember my grandparents. I was lucky enough to have my grandparents for many, many years. But I don't really know much about their parents. And it just like taking some time to really kind of cover that. Like, who were those people? while we have, I don't have my grandparents anymore, but I'm lucky I have my parents, and of course I have my in-laws, just to take that recorder. I think that's awesome. We might start following you around, Gigi, with a recorder.
She'll be sorry she made that suggestion.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm the one you want to record, but I'm just suggesting that to Micah because she has a grandmother that has a lot to offer. And someday she's going to say, well, my grandmother told me that. And then she'll, there could be a time you forget what grandma said and say, damn, I wrote it down, but a little bit, even your iPhone, you guys have the opportunity that we did not have. You have your little iPhone. Just put it on record when grandma's talking about the herbs and the trees and Daphne's talking about everything. And it's kind of fun,
Oh, trust me, Daphne's not going to be able to get rid of me now.
Yeah.
Okay, come on, girl.
The bugs.
You can teach them the new technology and set up one of these calls with your grandmother as the main, person, and you can be interviewing her with all your cousins all around the world.
Oh, what an awesome idea. Do a family Zoom.
Yeah, but if you do a family Zoom, you have to really have some strict rules of engagement. Otherwise, it's chaos.
It gets chaos. We did that. We did that. And it got to the point where I said, okay, guys, I'm out. Because nobody didn't understand the whole rule thing.
And any other, Carolina, any other
Yes, yeah. I'd like to say something. So this COVID-19 actually makes you really think about the important things about your people, the people that are important to you, and also self-growth and how we can be influencers. And one of the things, I came to your side because I got your email. I think I registered to a trip in Colombia for the winter, for December, and that got canceled, of course. And then I got yours, but I wanted to know more about our cultures, different cultures, and different holistic ways of healing ourselves and growth, and how we could be influencers in our own nature. For everybody, for our family, our friends. I have a 30-year-old daughter, and I immediately called her and I told her about the NAM product, and I said, look, you have to go online and check it out and see, because she's into holistics also, and it's just one person at a time. You start with one person. I started with my daughter. But I also gave your website to a bunch of other friends. I said, look, I'm doing this. Come and join me. This is how we could do it virtually while we're still locking down. But it's a time for growth. And all of us are growing emotionally, spiritually, physically, learning how to cook better for ourselves, learning how to give that positive energy out. And I really thank you for, allowing to share this with total strangers, actually.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Carolina. It's really beautiful. And that's the intention. And something like this, like an opportunity today, we really dive into the Bahamas and you get to see a glimpse, right? And what I always feel like is the places that we visit are amazing because of the people that are in those places. So it's like putting the people, the places, and the purpose all together, and that creates this amazing, authentic experience and connection to the destination. So that's what my hope in creating this has been. And you can't get there, but you can kind of get little bits and pieces of it. Thank you.
Awesome.
Anybody else want to chime in, or any last things to say? We've really I think Daphne's jumping at it. Are you jumping, Daphne, or?
Oh no, it's the time of day that the sand flies come out. So I'm like,
oh my goodness.
Yeah. But I did want to ask Carolina, where are you from?
I'm originally from Colombia, South America, but I live in South Florida, so Bahamas is not too far from us.
Almost neighbors.
Yeah.
Skip and jump away.
It's warm in here too, by the way.
Okay.
Sitting outside.
No, I just was trying to pick up on the accent.
Right.
Yeah, well.
I have a question for Daphne again.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, no. I'm sorry. Did I interrupt someone?
No. I also have a question for Daphne, so I will wait until you're done.
Daphne, I in New Jersey, we have in the summertime a terrible green head fly problem, and it's at the shore, and it depends on the way the wind blows, whether it's going to be on the bay side or the ocean side. And I don't know whether it got answered because I had to leave this morning. A repellent that might work for biting flies. Is there some kind of repellent that you sell or that you can?
Well, I I was just putting it on myself actually. I do a insect repellent that has basically neem, citronella, rosemary oil, aloe, and it's in a gel form. And it's effective against most mosquitoes and sand flies, and it's moisturizing, it's not drying. But I just learned something yesterday. We're planting a new garden we're doing trees for food. It's a project that we're taking on, growing 500 breadfruit trees to plant here on farms. But Simeon, you'll be happy to know there's this tree for food movement going on here. And so the horse flies, the doctor flies, which sometimes can be resistant to everything. Somebody said just put a little bit of liquid detergent, Joy or whatever, on your legs and it stops them. But our insect repellent is very effective against mosquitoes, pretty good against sandflies, not 100%, and also is effective against doctor flies. I don't know what kind of flies you have, but there's nothing more vicious than the sandy point sandfly. So, and it has been effective against that. So hopefully it would help you.
Well, what happens if you go in the water? Do you start bubbling?
Oh, well, if you use the soap, yeah, you would. But with ours, no.
Bubbling in the ocean.
No, but if you are bathing and sweating, you will have to reapply. But the best thing is to put it on actually before you go out. So you want it to be absorbed in the skin before you actually go out. Don't wait for them to start biting, because the whole thing is you want them to be repelled from you. Right? Did that answer you?
Yes, it did. And also the other night, because this morning you spoke about sounds for soothing. And Mike, I think you spoke about it also. I had my grandson over the other night, and to get him to go to sleep, unfortunately, I used Google. My son says, "Why are you using Google?" But I said, "Hey, Google, play night sounds." And it started to play crickets and hoppers and all these things. And it led to a conversation with my grandson. And then I asked it to play waves. And boy, before you know it, he was asleep.
Yeah.
Really
Waves will do it.
Beautiful.
I like that, Gigi. And her grandson is my son.
So, but there's actually an app for that.
What's that? Oh yeah, there's apps for that.
No, I was mentioning, yeah, there's an app for anyone, especially during this kind of time, that really helped me. Because like I was actually telling Micah earlier, right now is a very hard time for a lot of us, especially persons that work in healthcare. We're having a very rough time. So meditation is very important. I found the app Headspace actually was a lot of help in that aspect. Anybody who wants like nighttime meditation, or if you need help getting to sleep, I found that app really helps.
Headspace, it's called.
Oh,
yeah, it's called Headspace. Once you go into the app store,
okay,
it's really good.
Cool.
I keep seeing I keep seeing advertisements for that app Calm.
I know.
Anyone else? Facebook keeps suggesting I try it.
Calm though, if I'm not mistaken, isn't it like $40 or $50 a year? It's kind of like more on the expensive side.
Yeah,
no idea.
Yeah,
Headspace.
Yeah, Calm isn't
like,
free.
I'm sorry. Headspace is like $64 a year, and I've been using it. I started to use it this week, and it's actually really interesting. And you have different sessions and everything, and so it's really, really interesting. So I read reviews of all the different apps for meditation, And I think Calm came in on the third, top three. Headspace came in up better. So check it out. You know, just look at the reviews for your apps before you download it, and read the reviews of what other people have made comments on it. So take that into consideration. But it's really good. It's been really helpful too for me. Yeah.
Hi, Frida.
Yeah, I have a quick question for Daphne.
Okay.
I was wondering, so I recently had a successful graft with a ruby red tree, and now it budded, but now the little baby grapefruits are falling off. And I don't know what to do because I don't know.
Okay, so it grafted and then you removed it from the mother tree and planted it?
Yeah.
And
well, no, I didn't remove it from the mother tree. I cut off the grafting branch. So I did the cleft graft.
Okay, and then you planted that.
Yes.
Okay, and
so I have it in a little pot now.
Were the fruits starting to form before you moved? Was it blossoming before you moved it or planted it?
No, that happened after. It had just a little bit of new growth, but it started growing more and new fruit once I replanted it.
Okay, well, I can tell you I'm totally distressed because we managed to save a couple of our mango trees through Hurricane Dorian. We lost most of our orchard, fruit orchard. I'm looking out there like you could see me, but that's where it was. And one of our mango trees was full of blossom, and we had little mangoes like the size of a quarter. And then recently we had a bad windstorm, and as a result, we've lost them all. It's rebudding and putting out new blossoms, but sometimes with the first year bearing tree, it can go, that can happen.
Okay. I'm just so excited now. I'm so sad because I'm just picking them up and trying to put them back on. Please no.
I can certainly empathize with you. I'm having the same problem with my mango tree.
It's just kind of the luck of the draw with it.
And Erin, I just wanted to ask, you're in the Bahamas, right?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
And where are you practicing in healthcare?
I work to doctor's hospital. I work in pharmacy.
Oh, okay. Because there are a few, I don't know, doctors, I don't know, Tristan, do you know Tristan? Anyway, there are a few medical practitioners that I know that have been using our neem products. And if you're concerned about contracting the virus, which obviously would be, you can call me separately and we can talk about it, but there are couple of products that I highly recommend all of our first responders. I'm trying to get one of the medical supply stores on Shirley Street to stock our products just to get it to the first responders because so many of you have been compromised. And neem is without a doubt proven in India where it originates from. It is proven to be a very effective preventer, antiviral preventer, but also in the body, if you contract it, it has a chemical, I'm not a scientist, here I am, but it has a way of blocking it from spreading in the body.
Right. I actually was going to ask you about the capsules.
Yeah.
Right. Because I know you said that you carried the capsules. I actually was going to ask you a question about that vaccine.
Yeah, and they're available in Nassau. So please feel free to private message me if you want more information about that. And as a matter of fact, we have another farm. We have a plantation in Paraguay in South America, Carolina, and it's huge. The ranch is bigger than the whole island of Abaco, and it's not ours, but we are fortunate to have been invited by our German partner to do a neem plantation on this huge cattle ranch, and we've just shipped 100 or 1,000 pounds of neem leaf from Paraguay to Germany, where they are furiously producing neem capsules and for COVID virus prevention testing in Germany. And we've also donated a neem leaf to the country of Paraguay for, again, for this COVID management. So yeah, please do take it seriously.
Oh yes, yes, I will be contacting you about that most definitely.
Okay.
Thank you all so much. We are kind of getting tight on time, and we want to make sure that we respect all of your times. Is there anything else anybody else wants to share about the conversation before we kind of wrap that up? No? Jacqueline, how did your peach pie come out? Can't hear you. Nope. Can't hear her. Can't hear you. I'm not sure why. You're unmuted, but we can't hear you. So
she's probably eating it.
I have audio on my phone.
Oh, there you are. Yeah. Yeah, she's a little muted. But anyway, we can't hear you, Jack. You can write to me probably. No. But she specializes in gluten-free cooking, so I'm sure it was pretty amazing though. So we really, we took up a huge amount of time, but I felt like it was really important to have that connection and that time to learn from one another and share with one another, especially during this time where we're all isolated and quarantined. So we can...
Olivia?
What's that?
I just have one quick question for Simeon.
Yeah.
Sorry, so I have a gooseberry tree. I don't know, I tried to private message you about it, but I have a gooseberry tree and I wanted to know if there was anything that I can do with them besides just eating them with salt and pepper. I tried to make, well, once it blossoms, I've already decided I'm gonna try and make a jam with them, but I was just wondering if you had any other suggestions.
Gooseberry vinegar.
What?
You can make a gooseberry vinegar that will be very good for, you could make it into a drinking vinegar, or you can make it into a vinegar that you use in your salads. Because it's so tart, it plays right into that direction. And so infused vinegars is something that I'm definitely a big fan of. And so that can go a long way. You know, taking certain types of vinegar is pretty advantageous. So definitely I would look at probably just infusing some, the easiest way to do would be to start it with a organic vinegar and just kind of put the mash together and then go from there.
So mash the gooseberries?
So mash the gooseberries, add them to the vinegar, and then start the process. Once you've created a sort of mother vinegar, then you can keep going with just let it keep going. And I would put the mash, don't try to strain it or anything, all of the pulp and everything that inside of it.
And the seed?
Yeah.
About how long does it have to ferment?
And at least about 7 days.
I'm gonna do that.
And then, yeah, I'm gonna try. And you said that makes like good vinaigrette and stuff. And then
yes, of course. Once you have a flavored vinaigrette, a flavored vinegar, then you can make a flavored vinaigrette.
Okay, one more question. Is there a particular brand that you would recommend? Because it has to be just white vinegar, right? Not like apple cider or anything.
Yeah, I would go with something like that. If you can find a really good organic white vinegar, that'll work out pretty well.
Okay, I'll go to Well, I'll go to Fresh Market. I'll check with Fresh Market, see if they have that. I'm gonna try that. Okay.
And if you have any more questions, message me because I'm interested, because I used to live in Tennessee.
Oh gosh.
I went to Belmont.
Oh, okay. I went to Lee.
See, there you go. So let's stay in contact. Yeah. I won't hold up anybody anymore, but thank you so much. Anybody have any questions for me at any point? I'm gonna post a few more things on the Facebook page. But like we said this morning, my website, I'm pretty nimble with updating that, and also on my social media handles are connected to the website. I try to give recipes, tips, historical facts, food culture information, all of that stuff so that people can kind of latch on to that. And it's not just, you know, it's a mixture of down home, it's a mixture of old and new. So definitely you'll get a story. So at the end of all of this, when we're, you know, back to normal and everything else, you can still stay connected with me that way.
Tomorrow, when I send the follow-up, I have everyone's links. So I'll have the link to Simeon's website, to Daphne's, if you haven't already captured that, to Micah, as well as their social media handles. And
Awesome.
And Simeon, when is your book coming out?
Well, before Miss Corona came around and danced with everybody.
Dance with everybody.
No, let's not even get that. I was going to put the finishing touches on it in June, along with an event, but now I just have to wait and see. But again, it's one of those things. I believe when it's supposed to happen, it'll happen.
Yeah.
But we're definitely ready to put it to market.
Yeah. Well, we have used up successfully all of our time this afternoon without fully moving, and I hope that that is okay with everyone there. I just feel like this conversation was really valuable, and I didn't really want to stop it. I have sent you all, I think everyone here, if I haven't, I can send you from last week. We have lots of classes if you're still wanting to move. And Micah, I apologize that we didn't get into that, but we're happy that we were able to have you share, obviously, this evening and get us started with a grounding meditation and your practice earlier today. And on Wednesday, I'll be sharing videos from this whole weekend. So from today and yesterday, we were exploring Costa Rica and California. So, and then next weekend, we are diving back into the Caribbean. I invite all of you here with me, with the Bahamians with me, to join us. We'll feature St. Lucia and Antigua, and especially those of you who are mothers. It's a bit of a mother's focus, and really diving into the culture from a mother standpoint, and the matriarch culture of the Caribbean. So if any of you want to join me for that, I would love to have you. So feel free to.
Dawn, sorry, real quick. I forgot, do I have time, or if anybody wants to stay after, I had the quick question to ask if anybody knows where the loofah sponge comes from.
You can ask.
Does anybody know what, you know, the loofah that you buy in the spas that you bathe with, the sponges? Do you know where they come from? Anybody?
I said the sea, but anybody else?
Loofah? Simeon?
I was wrong with the sea.
Yeah, of course. Sponging was a big part of the Bahamian economy.
But this is real quick. This right here, what you're looking at, is a dried loofah. And when it's growing on the vine, it looks like a zucchini, grows just like a zucchini. And it's edible. When it's young and soft, you can eat it, okay? But when you let it dry out completely on the vine, I'm gonna rush to peel this. It dries, totally dehydrates, it dries out and peels off. We should have had one of these already peeled, but you would have missed the whole.
We like the process.
Thing.
It's okay.
Sounds like it's really dry.
Yeah, you peel all the skin off, and inside there are lots of seeds. So like with everything that we grow, you know, it's amazing. From one, you can make many. So from this, we will have lots of seeds inside that you can plant and grow on a trellis. Meaning pot scrub potters, even in facial sponges, you'll see it sliced into little wafers, and they use it for facial sponges. You can use it for a bathe, for massage, for skin, for cleaning floors, pots and pans. So that's just my little.
What is the fruit actually called?
It's a loofah.
A loofah. It is called
loofah. It's loofah. Loofa. And yeah, it's slightly bitter on. It has no taste, kind of like a zucchini, but the skin is slightly bitter, and it has a beautiful yellow buttercup. And my husband's just been to the chicken farm and brought me fresh eggs. So
fun.
That was just a.
Thank you.
Everybody says it's from the sea. They all think it's from the sea.
Yeah,
but it's just another thing that we can grow.
I would have never known that.
Yeah, and you have to dry it though. You have to dry it for it to make sense.
Yes, you have to let it completely dry out. Otherwise, it will rot. You know, if it's a green fruit, it'll rot. So you either eat it when it's young, saute it, however you would cook a zucchini, squash, or let it dry out on the vine and then pick it after it's completely dried off of the vine.
Wow.
Thank you. That's so cool.
Good one.
So,
yeah. Good job. That's an awesome way to end on a high note there. Good job there, Daphne.
Yeah.
Thank you. We're waiting for you.
So we'll be back at this again next Saturday, and I will follow up with you all this week, tomorrow and Wednesday. Feel free to reach me if you have any questions, or if you have questions for anything still lingering from this conversation or earlier today or yesterday, feel free to post it in the Facebook group, because if you have the question, maybe other people do too, so we can connect there as well. And hello to Maya. We don't see you, but maybe you're still listening. And Lauren, if you're there as well. And Lori is my mom there in the upper right-hand corner. So thank you all for being here. And I think there was somebody else. No, she jumped off. Okay.
Thank you, Dawn, for your patience.
Thank you. Oh, yeah.
And putting this all together.
Not patience.
Yes, thank you so much, Donna. I really appreciate the opportunity. It was great.
Good job. Yes,
the
thank you so
energy
much.
here was awesome.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Have an awesome evening.
Have a good Sunday.
Okay, everybody have a good
Bye from the Bahamas.
Bye from the Bahamas.
Working.
All right. Maya and Lauren, they may have stepped away. All right, Chef. Chef, thanks so much. You were awesome.
No problem. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we'll connect. We'll catch up. Actually, I'm going to poke you right after this. I'm going to end the meeting now.
Take care.